In the summer of 1963, a historic moment changed the course of American history. Over 250,000 people, from all walks of life, gathered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial to demand justice, equality, and an end to racial discrimination. This was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and it was a defining moment in the civil rights movement. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic moments in American history, the 1963 March on Washington. This wasn't just a protest, it was a call for change that resonated around the world, and the impact is still felt today. Before the March on Washington, America was in the midst of a struggle that had been going on for centuries. The civil rights movement wasn't a new idea, but in the early 1960s it was gaining momentum. Activists, organizers, and everyday people were demanding an end to segregation, voting rights for African Americans, and equal treatment under the law. By 1963, racial injustice was still rampant in the South, segregation was legally sanctioned, and the right to vote was denied to millions of African Americans. But in this climate of unrest, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, A. Philip Randolph, and many others began to plan one of the largest and most peaceful demonstrations in American history. August 28, 1963, a day that would go down in history. Over 250,000 people from all across the United States gathered here, at the National Mall in Washington, D.C., to demand jobs and freedom. The march was organized not only to push for civil rights legislation, but also to call for economic equality and fair wages. At the heart of the march was Martin Luther King Jr., who just hours before giving his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, inspired millions with his vision of a racially integrated, just and free America. King's speech, delivered from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, became one of the most iconic speeches in American history. With its message of unity, equality, and hope, King captivated not just those in attendance, but people across the world. It's still remembered today as a rallying cry for social justice. The March on Washington wasn't just a moment of powerful speeches and inspiring words, it led to real change. A few months later, President John F. Kennedy introduced the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and by 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, dismantling legal segregation and giving African Americans the right to vote in the South. However, the fight didn't end there. While these legislative victories were monumental, the work for racial equality continues today, as systemic racism still persists in many forms. The March on Washington was just the beginning. It inspired generations to continue the fight for equality, and its lessons still resonate in movements today, reminding us that progress is possible, but we must keep pushing for it. So, what can we take away from the March on Washington today? Well, it shows us the power of peaceful protest, the strength of unity, and the importance of standing up for what's right. It's a reminder that change is possible, but only if we come together as a society and demand it. In 2023, America faces its own set of challenges related to racial justice and economic inequality. While we've made progress since the 1960s, there's still a long road ahead. And just like those 250,000 brave souls in 1963, we have the power to change the world through peaceful action, persistence, and hope. The March on Washington was a pivotal moment that changed the course of American history. It showed us that, when people unite for a common cause, they can change the world. So, what do you think? How does the legacy of the March on Washington resonate in today's fight for racial equality? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video inspiring, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear the story of the March on Washington. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.